The spare key was for emergencies. I never knew the emergency would be finding the love that was right in front of me all along. It was almost midnight when I heard the sound. You know that particular click of a key turning in your lock? I froze. My laptop was open, coffee getting cold beside me, and I was deep into editing photos for a client. Living alone for 6 months had made me paranoid about every little noise, but this was different. This was real. The door opened slowly and I grabbed the first thing I could find, which happened to be a rolled-up poster. Not exactly threatening, but it was all I had. Then I saw her, completely soaked from head to toe, shivering like crazy with mascara running down her face. It was my best friend from childhood, standing in my doorway looking like she just swam across the city. "Hey," she said, her teeth chattering so hard she could barely get the word out. I just stood there like an idiot, poster still in hand. We hadn't seen each other in almost 2 years. She'd been traveling for work and we'd lost touch. You know how it goes. Life gets busy, messages get shorter, and before you know it, months turn into years. "I still had the key," she said, holding up the spare I'd given her ages ago. "I'm so sorry. My phone died, my flight got delayed, the hotel messed up my booking, and I didn't know where else to go." She took a step inside and immediately started dripping water all over my floor. Her jacket was plastered to her body. Her shoes were making squishing sounds, and she looked absolutely miserable. The rain outside was coming down in sheets. I could hear it hammering against the windows. "You're freezing," I said, finally snapping out of my shock. "Stay right there." I ran to the bathroom and grabbed every towel I owned. When I came back, she was standing in the same spot, looking embarrassed and exhausted at the same time. Her whole body was shaking and her lips had this bluish tint that scared me. "You need to get out of those clothes," I said, handing her the towels. "You're going to get sick." She nodded and started peeling off her jacket. It fell to the floor with a wet slap. Then she reached for her sweater, and that's when I realized this was about to get awkward. But she wasn't thinking about awkward. She was too cold to care. Her fingers were fumbling with the buttons, barely working, and she was still shivering violently. I turned around quickly, giving her privacy. "I'll get you some dry clothes. Just wrap yourself in the towels." My heart was racing for all the wrong reasons. This was my childhood best friend, the girl I used to build forts with and share secrets with. But we weren't kids anymore, and this situation was definitely not something we'd ever prepared for. I heard more wet clothes hitting the floor behind me. "I'm so embarrassed," she said through chattering teeth. I wasn't thinking. "I just need to warm up." "Don't worry about it," I called out, digging through my dresser. Emergency situations call for emergency measures. I found my biggest hoodie and some sweatpants, plus warm socks. When I turned around, she was wrapped in towels like a burrito, still shaking but at least not dripping anymore. Her hair was plastered to her face and she looked so small and vulnerable standing there in my living room. "Here," I said, handing her the clothes. "Bathroom's that way. Take a hot shower. Stay in there as long as you need." She managed a small smile, the first one since she'd walked in. "You're a lifesaver." Literally. While she was in the shower, I cleaned up the puddles, hung her wet clothes over the heater, and made hot tea. The whole situation felt surreal. 2 hours ago, I was working on photos and thinking about going to bed. Now my best friend from another lifetime was in my shower, and I had no idea what had brought her to my door at midnight in the middle of a storm. 20 minutes later, she emerged from the bathroom looking like a different person. My clothes were way too big on her, making her look like a kid wearing her dad's stuff. Her hair was damp but clean, and the color was starting to come back to her face. "Better?" I asked, handing her the tea. "So much better," she said, wrapping her hands around the mug. I thought I was going to turn into an ice cube out there. We sat down on the couch, and for a minute neither of us said anything. It was strange. We used to be able to talk about anything, but now there was this gap of 2 years between us, filled with unshared experiences and missed moments. "I know this is crazy," she started, staring into her tea. "Showing up like this, using the old key. I didn't know if you still lived here or if you'd even want to see me after all this time." "Of course I want to see you," I said. "I'm just surprised." "What happened? Why are you here?" She took a deep breath and I could see tears starting to form in her eyes. "My flight from Tokyo was supposed to land this morning, but we got delayed for hours. By the time I got here, it was late, and when I went to the hotel, they'd given away my room. My phone died, and I couldn't remember anyone's number except yours because I'd memorized it years ago. Why didn't you call from the airport?" "Pride, I guess," she said, laughing a little. "And fear. What if you'd moved on with your life? What if you didn't want to deal with your messy friend showing up unannounced? You're not messy, I said, even though we both knew that wasn't entirely true. She smiled at that, a real smile this time. I've missed you. I've missed this. Having someone who knows me. I've missed you too, I admitted. And it was true. Even with all my other friends, there was always something missing. That easy comfort of someone who'd known you since you were a kid, who remembered your embarrassing phases and your old dreams. We talked until 3 in the morning. She told me about Tokyo, about the job that had taken her there, about the loneliness of being in a foreign country where everything felt different. I told her about the breakup that had left me living alone, about my photography business that was slowly taking off, about the strange quietness of my life lately. You can stay here, I said when her eyes started drooping, as long as you need. The couch pulls out. Are you sure? She asked. I don't want to impose. You're not imposing. You're saving me from talking to myself, which has become a bad habit. She laughed at that, and it sounded like music. Funny how you don't realize how much you miss someone's laugh until you hear it again. I set her up with blankets and pillows, made sure she had everything she needed. Before I went to my room, she called out to me, "Thank you for not making this weird, for just being you." "Thank you for trusting me enough to come here," I said, "even if you did scare me half to death." That night, lying in my bed, I couldn't sleep. My mind kept replaying the moment she walked through that door. The shock, the relief, the strange feeling of something clicking back into place. Like a puzzle piece I didn't know was missing had suddenly returned. The rain kept falling outside, and I could hear her moving around in the living room, probably unable to sleep too. I wondered what tomorrow would bring. Would things be awkward? Would we run out of things to say? Or would it be like old times, easy and comfortable? I didn't have answers, but for the first time in months I felt something other than the dull routine of my daily life. There was anticipation, curiosity, maybe even a little excitement. Whatever happened next, at least I wouldn't be alone anymore. Morning came with the smell of coffee and the sound of someone moving around in my kitchen. For a second I forgot she was there and panicked. Then I remembered, and a smile spread across my face before I could stop it. When I walked out, she was standing at my counter, wearing my hoodie and attempting to make breakfast. She'd found eggs, bread, and somehow managed to locate my hidden stash of good coffee that even I sometimes forgot about. "You're up early," I said, rubbing sleep from my eyes. She turned around, spatula in hand, looking more relaxed than she had the night before. "Jet lag is real. My body thinks it's dinner time. Hope you don't mind me raiding your kitchen." "Mi casa es su casa," I said, pulling up a stool at the counter. "Though I should warn you, my cooking supplies are limited." "I noticed," she said with a grin. "You have 3 types of hot sauce but no butter. What kind of person are you?" "The kind who orders takeout a lot. We ate breakfast together and it felt surprisingly normal." The awkwardness from last night had faded into something comfortable. She told me about the weird foods she'd tried in Tokyo, and I told her about my disastrous attempt at learning to cook during lockdown. "So, what's the plan?" I asked when we'd finished eating. "Do you need to get somewhere?" She hesitated, pushing crumbs around her plate. "Honestly, I don't have a plan. I quit my job before I left Tokyo, gave up my apartment there. I just needed to come home, wherever that is." "You quit? But you loved that job. It was your dream." "Dreams change," she said quietly. "Or maybe you wake up and realize they weren't really your dreams at all. Just things you thought you were supposed to want." I understood that feeling more than she knew. How many times had I tried to force myself to want things that looked good on paper, but felt wrong in my heart? "What happened?" I asked gently. She took a deep breath. "I was working 80-hour weeks, barely sleeping, barely eating. I'd go days without having a real conversation with anyone. The money was good, the title was impressive, but I was miserable. And lonely. So incredibly lonely." Her voice cracked on that last word, and I reached across to squeeze her hand. She squeezed back hard. "One day I was sitting in my apartment at 2 in the morning finishing a report, and I just thought about you, about us as kids making stupid jokes and laughing until our stomachs hurt. And I realized I hadn't laughed like that in years. I hadn't felt anything in years. So you came back." "So I came back," she confirmed. "No plan, no job lined up, just a one-way ticket and a hope that maybe I could find whatever I'd lost along the way." We spent that day together, falling into an easy rhythm. She helped me edit photos for my client, offering suggestions that were actually helpful, She had an eye for composition I hadn't expected. "You're really good at this," she said, watching me work. "I mean, I knew you liked photography, but these are professional." "It pays the bills," I said, trying to sound modest but secretly pleased. "Barely. Don't do that," she said. "Don't minimize your success. You're building something real here." In the afternoon, we went for a walk. The rain had cleared, leaving everything fresh and clean. We walked through the old neighborhood, past the park where we used to play, past the school we'd attended together. Everything looked smaller than I remembered, but somehow more meaningful. "Do you remember when we tried to dig to China in your backyard?" she asked suddenly. "We got like 3 feet down before my mom made us stop," I laughed. She was convinced we'd hit a water pipe. We were so determined, so sure we could actually make it. "We were idiots." "We were kids," she corrected. "Kids with big dreams and no concept of geography." We grabbed coffee at a new place that had opened up since she'd been gone. She ordered something complicated with oat milk and 3 different flavors, while I stuck with my usual black coffee. "Some things never change," she observed. "Is that good or bad?" "It's comforting," she said. "In a world where everything feels uncertain, it's nice to know some things stay the same." That evening, we cooked dinner together. Well, I chopped vegetables while she actually did the cooking. She'd learned some recipes in Tokyo and was eager to try them out with limited ingredients. "This is nice," I said, watching her move around my small kitchen like she'd always been there. Having someone else here, I mean. "It's been quiet for a while." "Quiet can be good," she said, stirring something that smelled amazing. "Quiet can also be lonely." She looked up at me then, really looked at me. "Yeah, it really can." After dinner, we settled on the couch with tea and put on an old movie we'd both loved as teenagers. Halfway through, I realized she'd fallen asleep with her head on my shoulder. I stayed perfectly still, not wanting to wake her. She looked peaceful in sleep, younger somehow. The stress lines around her eyes had softened and she was breathing deeply and evenly. I wondered when she'd last felt safe enough to truly relax. My ex used to accuse me of being closed off, of not letting people in. But sitting there with my oldest friend asleep on my shoulder, I realized that wasn't entirely true. I just needed the right person to let in. The movie ended and I carefully shifted to lay her down on the couch, covering her with a blanket. She mumbled something in her sleep but didn't wake. I stood there for a moment watching her, feeling something shift in my chest. This was my best friend. The person who knew all my embarrassing stories and still chose to show up at my door in a storm. The person who made my quiet apartment feel alive again. "Good night," I whispered, even though she couldn't hear me. Back in my room, I couldn't sleep again. But this time it wasn't anxiety or loneliness keeping me awake. It was the unfamiliar feeling of contentment, of having someone to care about again, and maybe, just maybe, the tiniest hint of something more that I wasn't quite ready to examine yet. 2 weeks passed like that. She stayed, and neither of us talked about her leaving. We developed routines. Morning coffee together, me working while she explored the city or helped with my projects, evenings cooking and talking and watching movies. My apartment had never felt more like home, but I could feel something building between us. A tension that hadn't been there when we were kids. Moments when our hands would brush and we'd both pull back too quickly. Times when I'd catch her looking at me with an expression I couldn't quite read. My ex Julie saw us together at a cafe one afternoon. She came over, all fake smiles and sharp edges. "New girlfriend already?" she asked, her tone suggesting it wasn't really a question. "This is my friend," I said evenly. "She's staying with me for a while." Julie's laugh was harsh. "Right, your friend. That's what you're calling it." After she left, we sat in uncomfortable silence. "Sorry about that," I finally said. "Don't be. She seems lovely," she said sarcastically, then added more seriously. "Is that what people think? That we're together? Does it matter what people think?" "I guess not," she said. But something in her voice made me wonder if it mattered more than she was letting on. That night, another storm rolled in. Thunder shook the windows and rain pounded the roof. She came out of the living room and knocked on my bedroom door. "Can't sleep?" I asked. "The storm?" she said. "It reminds me of that first night. Can we talk?" We sat on my bed, backs against the headboard, listening to the rain. The lamp cast soft shadows across the room. "I need to tell you something," she started. "The real reason I came here that night." My heart started beating faster. "Okay. It wasn't just because my hotel fell through. I mean, that happened, but I could have figured something else out. Called another hotel, gone to the airport, anything. Then why? She turned to face me, her eyes serious in the dim light. Because I needed to see you. Specifically you. I'd been thinking about you for months, missing you. Wondering if you ever thought about me. When everything fell apart with my booking, it felt like a sign. Like the universe was giving me an excuse to show up at your door. You don't need an excuse, I said softly. You never did. I was scared, she admitted. Scared you'd moved on. Scared I'd ruined our friendship by disappearing for 2 years. Scared that these feelings I've been having were all in my head. Feelings? She laughed nervously. Yeah, feelings. The kind you're not supposed to have about your best friend. The air in the room changed, charged with possibility and risk. My mind was racing, trying to process what she was saying, what it meant, what I should say back. How long? I asked. Honestly? Maybe forever. But I really noticed it before I left for Tokyo. I just told myself I was being silly, that it was just friendship, that I'd get over it. Turns out you don't get over something real just because you put an ocean between you. Thunder crashed outside, and in that moment, I made a decision. No more hiding, no more pretending, no more what-ifs. I'm glad your hotel fell through, I said. She looked at me surprised. What? I'm glad the universe or fate or whatever gave you that excuse. Because I've been thinking about you for 2 years too. Wondering if you were happy, if you thought about me, if I'd ever get another chance to tell you that losing you was harder than any breakup I've ever been through. Really? Really, I confirmed. My last relationship fell apart partly because I kept comparing her to you. Nobody else ever measured up. Nobody else got my weird jokes or remembered my favorite songs or made me feel like myself. Honestly, I have no idea. This is scary. We could mess everything up. We could, she agreed. Or we could finally get it right. The thunder rolled again and the rain kept falling, and somewhere in my small bedroom with my oversized hoodie drowning her small frame, we both started laughing. Not because anything was funny, but because after all the distance and time and fear, we'd finally found our way back to truth. We should probably take this slow, I said. Probably, she agreed. Figure things out carefully. Definitely. Not rush into anything. That would be smart. We looked at each other and laughed again, because we both knew that advice was probably too late. Sometimes you can't go slow. Sometimes you've already been on the journey for years, and you're just finally admitting where the road has been leading all along. The morning after that conversation felt different. Not awkward exactly, but charged with a new awareness. We were both more careful around each other, more conscious of every glance and accidental touch. It was like learning a new dance where we both knew the music, but hadn't quite figured out the steps yet. She had a job interview that afternoon. She'd been sending out applications all week, looking for consulting work that wouldn't consume her entire life. I helped her pick out an outfit from the limited clothes she'd brought with her. Too formal? She asked, holding up a blazer. You look professional, I said, then added, and beautiful. She blushed at that. We were still figuring out how to do this, how to be friends and something more at the same time. Every compliment felt weighted with new meaning. Wish me luck, she said at the door. You don't need luck. You're brilliant. They'd be stupid not to hire you. She kissed my cheek quickly, then froze like she wasn't sure if that was okay now. I pulled her into a proper hug. Go knock them dead, I whispered. While she was gone, I tried to work but couldn't focus. My mind kept wandering to possibilities and problems. What if this didn't work out? What if we tried being together and ruined the best friendship I'd ever had? What if she realized I wasn't worth the risk? My phone rang. It was my mom. Hey, sweetie. Just checking in. How are you doing? Actually, I need to tell you something, I said. Remember my childhood friend? She's back. She's been staying with me. Oh, that's wonderful. I always loved her. Such a sweet girl. How long is she visiting? That's the thing, Mom. I don't think it's just a visit. We're figuring something out. Something more than friendship. There was a pause, then my mom laughed warmly. Finally! Your father owes me $20. What? We had a bet about when you two would figure it out. I said by the time you were 30. He said 25. Looks like I win. You bet on my love life? Honey, everyone who ever saw you two together knew there was something there. We were just waiting for you to catch up. After we hung up, I sat there stunned. Had it been that obvious? Had everyone seen what we'd been too scared to acknowledge? She came home 3 hours later, grinning ear to ear. I got it, she shouted, spinning around my living room. They offered me the position on the spot. It's flexible hours, mostly remote, perfect work-life balance. I start in 2 weeks. I hugged her, lifting her off her feet. She laughed, and the sound filled every corner of my apartment. This is amazing, I said. I'm so proud of you. There's just one problem, she said, her smile fading slightly. I need to find an apartment. I can't keep crashing on your couch forever. Something twisted in my chest at those words. The thought of her leaving, even if it was just to a place across town, made my apartment feel empty already. You could stay, I said quickly. I mean, not on the couch. We could figure something out. The spare room could be an office for you, and you could keep using the couch until we figure out what we're doing. Are you sure? That's a big step. We've already taken the big step, I pointed out. You're already here. It's already working. Why mess with something good? She studied my face, searching for doubt. What about your space? Your privacy? What if we drive each other crazy? Then we'll figure it out, together. Isn't that what this is about? Figuring things out together instead of alone? She bit her lip, thinking. Okay, but I pay rent. Half of everything. I'm not a charity case. Deal, I said, shaking her hand formally, which made her laugh. That weekend we went shopping for furniture to make the space more hers. A proper bed for the living room that could fold up during the day. A desk for her work. Some plants to add life to the space. Watching her pick out things and arrange them in my apartment made it feel less like mine and more like ours. This is weird, right? She said that night as we assembled furniture. Like we went from not seeing each other for 2 years to living together in 3 weeks. When you say it like that, it sounds crazy, I admitted. Are we crazy? Probably, I said. But I'd rather be crazy with you than sane and alone. She threw an instruction manual at me, but she was smiling. The next week, reality settled in. We developed actual routines now that she had a job. Morning coffee was sacred time, just 30 minutes before the day started, where we'd sit together and talk about nothing important. She'd work from the living room while I edited photos in my room. Lunch was usually simple, sometimes together, sometimes separate if we were both busy. Evenings were ours. We'd cook together, experimenting with recipes and making a mess of the kitchen. Then we'd watch shows or talk or sometimes just sit in comfortable silence, her reading while I sketched. But we hadn't defined what we were. We were living together, sharing space and time and parts of ourselves, but we hadn't kissed beyond that cheek peck. Hadn't held hands except by accident, hadn't said the words that would make this official. It was like we were both waiting for the other person to make the first real move, too scared to be the one who pushed too far too fast. My friend Daniel came over one evening and immediately picked up on the vibe. So are you two together or what? He asked bluntly while she was in the other room. It's complicated, I said. Dude, she lives with you. She wears your clothes. You make her coffee every morning with exactly the right amount of sugar without asking. That's not complicated. That's dating. We're taking it slow. You're living together. How much slower can you go? At this rate, you'll propose before you have your first kiss. He had a point, but I couldn't shake the fear. This mattered too much to rush. If we mess this up, I didn't just lose a girlfriend. I lost my best friend, my roommate, my person. That night, another thunderstorm rolled in. They seemed to follow the important moments in our story. She came to my bedroom door again, but this time she didn't knock. Just stood there in my doorway, backlit by the living room lamp. Can I come in? She asked. Always. She sat on my bed and I could see she'd been crying. I got an email today. Another job offer. In another city. More money, better title, all the things that look impressive. My stomach dropped. Are you going to take it? I turned it down, she said, without even thinking about it. I just hit reply and declined, and then I realized what that meant. What does it mean? It means I'm choosing this. Choosing you. Choosing us, whatever we are. And that's terrifying because we haven't even talked about what we are. What if you don't want this the way I want this? What if I've turned down opportunities for something that isn't even real yet? I reached for her hand, holding it tight. It's real. Maybe we haven't labeled it or defined it, but it's real. I feel it every morning when I make your coffee. Every time you laugh at my stupid jokes. Every night when I go to sleep knowing you're just in the other room. Then why haven't we? She trailed off. Because I'm scared, I admitted. Scared of messing this up. Scared of not being enough. Scared that if we try and fail, I'll lose the most important person in my life. I'm scared too, she whispered. But I'm more scared of never trying. Of always wondering what if. The thunder rumbled outside, softer this time, like even the storm was holding its breath, waiting to see what happened next. "I'm in love with you," I said. The words came out rushed, tumbling over each other. "I think I have been for years. Maybe forever. And living with you these past weeks has been the best time of my life, and I don't want it to end. And I'm terrified that admitting this will somehow break whatever magic we've got going." She started crying again, but she was smiling too. "You idiot. I love you too. That's what I've been trying to tell you. That's why I came back. That's why I'm here. So what do we do now?" "I think," she said slowly, "we stop being so careful. Stop being so scared. We already jumped. We might as well enjoy the fall." She leaned toward me and I met her halfway. Our first kiss was soft and tentative, like we were both afraid of breaking something precious. Then it deepened, became more certain, more real. Years of friendship and weeks of tension and all the fear and hope and love we'd been holding back poured into that moment. When we finally pulled apart, we were both breathing hard, both smiling, both crying a little. The first few days after we finally admitted our feelings were like living in a dream. Everything felt heightened, more colorful, more real. We'd catch each other's eyes across the room and just start smiling for no reason. It was the kind of happiness that makes you feel slightly ridiculous, but you don't care because it's too good to question. But reality has a way of showing up when you least expect it. And for us, reality showed up in the form of my family wanting to visit. "Your mom is coming here?" she asked, panic rising in her voice. "When?" "This weekend," I said, reading the text message again to make sure I hadn't misunderstood. "She says she wants to meet you properly, as my girlfriend." We stared at each other. Girlfriend. We hadn't actually used that word yet, even though that's clearly what we were. Hearing it out loud made everything feel more official, more permanent, more real. What if she doesn't approve? She worried. What if she thinks we're moving too fast or that I'm taking advantage of you or something? "My mom loves you. She's loved you since we were kids. Remember when she said I owed her $20? That was a joke, right?" "Half joke," I admitted. "But the point is, they're not going to be surprised. Apparently everyone saw this coming except us." She spent the next 2 days stress cleaning the apartment. I'd never seen our place so organized. She even arranged my photography books by color, which was excessive but looked admittedly pretty cool. When my mom arrived on Saturday morning, she took one look at us standing together in the doorway and immediately started crying happy tears. "Oh, you too?" she said, pulling us both into a hug. "Finally. I was beginning to think you'd never figure it out." "Mom, you're embarrassing me," I protested, but I was smiling. My mom spent the day with us and it was surprisingly easy. She asked about her new job, complimented the apartment, and told embarrassing stories about us as kids that had us all laughing. At one point when she was in the bathroom, my girlfriend grabbed my hand. "She's really okay with this," she whispered, sounding amazed. "I told you," I said. "The people who love us want us to be happy. That's all that matters." But not everyone was as supportive. Her parents called that evening and I could hear her side of the conversation from the other room. "Yes, I'm still here. No, I have a job. It's good. It's flexible. No, I don't think I'm making a mistake. Can you please just be happy for me? I'm happy. Isn't that what matters?" When she hung up, she looked exhausted. I pulled her close and she buried her face in my chest. "They think I'm ruining my life," she said, her voice muffled. "They think I'm throwing away my career to play house with my childhood friend. They don't understand." "They will," I said, stroking her hair. "Give them time. Once they see how happy you are, they'll come around. What if they don't? Then that's their loss. We're not living our lives for other people's approval. We're living for us." She pulled back to look at me. "When did you become so confident about this?" "Since I realized I'd rather have you and face the world's judgment than have the world's approval and not have you." She kissed me then, soft and sweet, and I felt her relax against me. Work became another interesting challenge. Her new job was going well, but sometimes I'd hear her on calls and recognize the old stress creeping into her voice. One afternoon, I walked into the living room and found her staring at her laptop with tears streaming down her face. "What's wrong?" I asked immediately, sitting beside her. "Nothing. Everything. I don't know." She wiped her eyes roughly. "My old boss from Tokyo emailed. He wants me back. He's offering double what I'm making now, plus a promotion, plus a signing bonus. It's everything I thought I wanted 2 months ago." My heart stopped. "What are you going to do?" "I'm going to say no," she said firmly. I'm going to delete the email and never think about it again. That life almost destroyed me. I'm not going back. But what if you regret it? I asked carefully. What if years from now you wonder what could have been? She turned to face me fully. You want to know what I'd regret? I'd regret choosing money over happiness. I'd regret choosing a fancy title over genuine connection. I'd regret leaving you for a job that would consume my entire life again. I spent 2 years being successful and miserable. I'd rather be here with you, building something real. Even though I can't offer you any of those things, the money, the prestige, the career growth, you offer me something worth more than all of that. You offer me a life I actually want to live. She deleted the email right then, didn't even respond, and I watched her exhale like she'd been holding her breath for years. But I couldn't shake the worry. What if one day she woke up and resented me for the life she'd given up? What if I wasn't enough to make it all worthwhile? She must have sensed my spiral because she grabbed my face between her hands. Stop it, she said. I can see you overthinking. I'm here because I choose to be. Every single day I choose this. I choose us. You're not holding me back. You're the only thing that's ever made me feel free. I just don't want you to sacrifice your dreams for me. My dreams were never about Tokyo or big paychecks or 80-hour work weeks. Those were someone else's dreams that I convinced myself were mine. My real dreams are simpler. Wake up next to someone I love, do work that matters, have time to actually live my life, laugh every day, feel seen and understood. Those are my dreams, and every single one of them is right here. We talked late into the night about fears and futures and what we both really wanted from life. She wanted to eventually start her own consulting business, working with small companies on her own terms. I wanted to expand my photography into more creative projects instead of just client work. We talked about maybe traveling together, about the possibility of moving to a bigger place eventually, about a life that felt authentic instead of impressive. What about kids? She asked suddenly. Do you want them? Someday, maybe, I said honestly. Not now, but someday. What about you? Same, someday, with the right person. She smiled. I think you might be the right person. You think? I teased. Okay, I know. You're definitely the right person, even when you leave your socks all over the apartment. I don't leave socks everywhere. You left 3 pairs just today. I counted. We fell asleep that night tangled together, and I felt something settle in my chest. A certainty I'd been missing. This was real. This was right. Whatever challenges came, we'd face them together. The next morning, I woke up before her and just watched her sleep for a moment. Her hair was messy. She was drooling slightly on my pillow, and she looked absolutely perfect. This was what people meant when they talked about love, I realized. Not the dramatic movie moments, but the quiet morning ones where someone is completely themselves, and you can't imagine wanting anything else. She stirred, opened her eyes, and caught me staring. Creepy, she mumbled. But she was smiling, can't help it. You're very stareable. That's not a word. It is now. She stretched like a cat, then curled back into me. What time is it? Early, we don't have to get up yet. Good, I'm comfortable. We laid there in comfortable silence until she spoke again. I've been thinking about something. Dangerous? I teased. I'm serious. I want to tell people. Not just family, but friends, social media, everyone. I don't want to hide this. I'm proud to be with you. Even though people might judge. Especially because they might judge. Let them judge. Let them say we moved too fast or that we're making a mistake. We know the truth. We know this is real, so we did it. We posted a simple photo of us together, fingers intertwined with a caption that just said, finally. The response was overwhelming. Friends we hadn't heard from in years congratulated us. Old classmates commented that they'd always known we'd end up together. A few people were confused, asking when this happened, but mostly people were just happy for us. Her parents called again that evening. This time the conversation was different. They want to meet you, she said after hanging up. Properly, as my boyfriend. They said they may have been too harsh before. They just worry about me. I'd love to meet them, I said. When? Next month. They're flying in for a weekend, I won't lie, I was nervous. Meeting the parents as the boyfriend was different from being the childhood friend. There was pressure now, expectations. But she seemed lighter after that call, like a weight had lifted. They're trying, she said. That's all I can ask for. That night we cooked dinner together, moving around the kitchen in the synchronized way we'd developed over the past weeks. She'd chop while I stirred, I'd season while she plated, and somehow it all came together without us having to discuss it. "We're good at this," she observed. "At cooking? At being us. At being a team." "Yeah," I agreed. "We really are." After dinner, we sat on the couch, her feet in my lap while we watched some show neither of us were really paying attention to. My phone buzzed with a message from Daniel. "You two look happy." "About time, man." I showed her the message and she smiled. "We do look happy, don't we? In that photo." "We are happy," I corrected. "Not just look it." "Actually are." "Yeah," she said softly. "We really are." She fell asleep on the couch that night and I carried her to bed, something I'd done a few times now. Each time I was struck by the trust it represented. She felt safe enough with me to completely let her guard down. As I pulled the covers over her and climbed in beside her, I thought about how far we'd come from that rainy night when she'd... 6 months later, I woke up to an empty bed. For a second, panic hit me. That old fear that this had all been a dream. Then I smelled coffee and heard her humming in the kitchen, and everything settled. I found her making breakfast, wearing my old college shirt and dancing to music only she could hear. When she saw me, she pulled out her earbuds and grinned. "Good morning, sleepyhead. Big day today." Right. Today marked exactly 1 year since she'd walked through my door in that rainstorm. We'd planned something special, though she didn't know all the details yet. "Morning," I said, wrapping my arms around her from behind. "You're up early." "Couldn't sleep." "Too excited." She turned in my arms. "I can't believe it's been a year." "Best year of my life," I said honestly. "Mine too. We'd come so far in those 12 months. Her consulting business was thriving. She had 3 steady clients and was turning down work because she was so busy. But the difference was she was busy on her own terms. She worked hard, but she also had time to live. My photography had taken off too. I'd landed a gallery showing for my personal work, and somehow that had led to more interesting client projects. Money was still tight sometimes, but we were making it work. Her parents had visited 3 times now. The first visit had been tense, full of careful conversations and polite questions. But by the 3rd visit, her dad was showing me his old photography equipment and her mom was teaching us family recipes. They'd come around just like I'd promised they would. We'd moved to a slightly bigger apartment 2 months ago. Nothing fancy, but it had 2 bedrooms so we could each have workspace and a balcony where we'd drink coffee on weekend mornings. It felt like ours in a way my old place never had. "So what's this surprise you've been planning?" she asked over breakfast. If I told you, it wouldn't be a surprise. I hate surprises. No, you don't. You love them. You just like pretending you hate them. She threw a piece of toast at me, but she was smiling. That afternoon, I drove us to the old neighborhood. We parked outside the park where we used to play as kids. "Why are we here?" she asked. "Just trust me." We walked through the park, past the swings we'd fought over, past the tree we'd carved our initials in when we were 12, past all the places that held pieces of our shared history. "You know what's funny?" she said. "I never thought I'd be back here. When I left for Tokyo, I thought I'd outgrown this place. Thought I needed bigger things, better things. But this park, this neighborhood, these memories, they were never small. I just wasn't ready to see how big they really were." "What changed?" "I did. Or maybe I just finally became who I was always meant to be." We reached the spot where we'd tried to dig to China all those years ago. Someone had planted flowers there since then. A whole garden of them, remember? I asked, how could I forget? We were so determined, so absolutely certain we could make it happen. We were kids with big dreams and terrible execution. The best kind of kids, she said. I pulled out my phone and showed her a photo. It was from that day, our younger selves covered in dirt, grinning at the camera despite our failed excavation project. "My mom gave me this last month," I said. I'd forgotten about it, but she'd kept it all these years. "You know what I see when I look at it? 2 idiots with a shovel? I see 2 people who've always been a team, who've always believed in impossible things, who've always had each other's backs even when we were apart. And I see the beginning of this story, the one we're still writing." She looked at the photo, then at me, and I saw tears starting to form in her eyes. "I have something for you," I said, reaching into my pocket. "Don't panic, it's not what you think." I pulled out a key on a simple chain. It was the spare key she'd used that rainy night, the one that had started everything. I'd had it engraved with a date and 3 words. She read the inscription aloud. For emergencies and forever. That night you walked through my door changed my life, I said. You were cold and scared and embarrassed, but you trusted me. You came to me when you had nowhere else to go. And I want you to know that you'll always have somewhere to go. You'll always have me, whatever happens. Emergency or everyday, storm or sunshine, forever. She was fully crying now, clutching the key like it was the most precious thing she'd ever held. You're going to make me ugly cry in a public park, she said, laughing through tears. I've seen your ugly cry. It's still pretty cute. She kissed me then, and I could taste the salt from her tears mixed with the sweetness of the moment. I love you, she said when we pulled apart. I love you so much it's actually ridiculous. I love you more than I knew it was possible to love someone. I love you too. Have since we were kids probably, but definitely since you walked into my apartment looking like a drowned cat and still somehow perfect. We sat in the grass by the flower garden, her head on my shoulder, watching kids play on the same equipment we'd played on decades ago. Do you ever think about the future? She asked. Like years from now? All the time, I admitted. What do you see when you think about it? I see us. Older, maybe grayer, probably still arguing about your sock situation. I see a life we've built together, whatever that looks like. Maybe kids eventually. Maybe just us, maybe a dog or 3. I don't need the details to be perfect. I just need you to be in them. That's exactly what I see too. We stayed in that park until the sun started setting, talking about dreams and plans and possibilities. She wanted to write a book about finding balance in work and life. I wanted to teach photography workshops. We both wanted to travel more, see the world together instead of separately. Should we go to Tokyo? I asked. See your old life, but together this time. Maybe, she said thoughtfully. But not yet. I'm not ready to go back there. That city holds a version of me I don't want to be anymore. What if we made new memories there? Overwrite the old ones with better ones? She considered this. Okay, but only if we do it our way. No 80-hour work weeks. No pushing ourselves to the limit. Just us exploring, experiencing, being present. Deal. On the drive home, she was quiet, playing with the key necklace I'd given her. You know what's crazy? She finally said. A year ago, I was sitting in a Tokyo apartment feeling completely alone, and now I'm here, with you, feeling like the luckiest person alive. Life is weird. Good weird or bad weird? The best weird, she said. The kind of weird that makes you believe in fate or destiny or whatever you want to call it. You think we were destined to be together? I think we were destined to find our way back to each other. Whether that's fate or just us being stubborn enough not to give up on something good, I don't know, but I'm glad we did. That evening we cooked dinner together, a tradition that had become sacred to us. She made the recipe her mom had taught us, and I attempted to help without getting in the way too much. We should have people over more, she said. Share this happiness. Host dinners, game nights, just be with people we love. We can do that. Though I should warn you, Daniel cheats at every game. I know. I've played with him. It's part of his charm. After dinner, we went out to our balcony with tea and blankets. The city lights spread out before us, thousands of lives being lived, thousands of stories unfolding. It's starting to rain, she observed, holding out her hand to catch drops. Just like the night you showed up. You think that's a sign? I think rain is just rain. But if you want it to be a sign, let's say it's a sign that good things can come from storms. She curled up against me, and we watched the rain fall, neither of us wanting to go inside. Thank you, she said quietly. For what? For taking me in that night. For not making it weird. For being patient while I figured out what I wanted. For loving me even when I was lost. For being the person I could always come home to. Thank you for being brave enough to use that key. For trusting me. For choosing this life over the one that looked better on paper. For making every day better just by being in it. The rain picked up and we finally went inside, tracking water like she had that first night. We laughed about it, about how far we'd come, about how some things never change. Later, as we got ready for bed, she stopped in front of the wall where we'd hung pictures. There was the childhood photo of us trying to dig to China. A candid from her first week staying with me, both of us laughing at something long forgotten. A selfie from our first official date. Pictures from various adventures over the past year. We should add more wall space, she said. We're going to need it for all the memories we're going to make. Planning to stick around a while then? Planning to stick around forever, she corrected. We climbed into bed. and she immediately curled into her spot against my side, her head on my chest where she could hear my heartbeat. "Hey," she said in the dark. "I'm really glad your hotel didn't mess up that night." I laughed. "Your hotel?" "Right, my hotel. I'm glad my hotel messed up." "Me too. Best mistake the universe ever made." "Do you think we would have found each other anyway? Even without the rain and the key and the cosmic intervention?" "Yeah," I said without hesitation. "Maybe it would have taken longer. Maybe we would have had to be even more stubborn, but yeah. Some things are inevitable." "You and me? We were always inevitable." She was quiet for so long I thought she'd fallen asleep. Then she said very softly, "I used to be scared of forever. It felt like too much pressure, too much commitment, too much risk. But with you, forever doesn't